Wild. I kind of feel bad for some of these college kids. You know, we played audio yesterday. They have no idea what they're doing there. They have no idea what they're protesting. And so I feel bad for some of them. Useful idiots. That's really what they are. Granted, some of them are not useful idiots. They are down for the cause, if you will. But it's amazing to see as we head into 2024 that we essentially have another election year like 2020 where the lead up we have massive protests. Except this time, instead of BLM being aimed at Donald Trump and Republicans and racism, we have the Free Palestine pro-Hamas squad going after Joe Biden. It's not something I had on my bingo card that radical leftist protesters would essentially go after Democrats as they head towards 2024. But here we are. The left eats it all over. Columbia, NYU, UT Austin yesterday. UT Austin was wild. Texas, they started making arrests during the setup. Did you see that? They rushed in and just started arresting people as they were setting up. Governor Greg Abbott threatens more arrests. I say good on him to a certain extent. Part of me wonders if Texas could have used those police officers on the southern border as opposed to a college campus. I think that's the more pressing threat in Texas. But, you know, nonetheless, yesterday, Texas police were dispatched to the University of Texas at Austin to restore law and order after anti-Israel protests erupted on campus. It sparked chaos, sparked disruption, and several people were arrested after authorities issued multiple dispersal orders, said you got to get out of here. They were met with resistance. There was a bunch of tension, so they started arresting people. There was one part I didn't like, though. And maybe you've seen this viral video. There's a reporter getting footage with a camera. And it's not like a cell phone camera. It's like a legit news channel camera, like on the shoulder. And he's following this crowd as police are clearing out the protesters. And he gets bumped. And at a certain point, it looks like he makes contact with a police officer. At which point, another police officer from behind him grabs him by the horse collar, yanks him down. Camera falls on top of him. There would be no way to not understand that this was a member of the press. And as the pushing and shoving ensued, this reporter was arrested, and he shouldn't have. He shouldn't have been arrested at all because he was covering this for news. A lot of people look at this and they say, you know, you're going after the First Amendment. You're quelching, you know, people's right to protest, and I get that sentiment. Part of this is private property, not public property, right? If you don't have a permit, the school can remove you. But the freedom of the press aspect does kind of bother me. There should be accountability for both protesters and police, and the more press, the more cameras we have there, the better idea we can get of what the situation is on the ground. But it was a wild scene. Riot police at certain points in Texas were being forced backwards as the protests heated up at UT Austin. Hundreds of Texas state troopers arrived on campus. Hundreds. And there were reporters there from all over. There was a reporter from CBS Austin. He said that police appeared to be making targeted arrests in the crowd. And during each arrest, obviously, protesters were chanting, "Let them go," referring to detained individuals. But this CBS reporter said that he saw what looked like targeted arrests at least a dozen times. Governor Abbott put a message out. He said, "Arrests being made right now and will continue until the crowd disperses. These protesters belong in jail. Anti-Semitism will not be tolerated in Texas, period. Students joining in hate-filled anti-Semitic protests at any public college or university in Texas should be expelled." It bugs me, though. Is this... I think that, like, I would ask the governor to define anti-Semitism and hate-filled protests. Because doesn't that fall under the First Amendment? Would this protest be treated the same way if it was Black Lives Matter? Maybe in Texas. But it does get a little hairy. Like, okay, so anti-Semitism is wrong. Not endorsing it. Still protected speech. Still absolutely protected speech. Should you be expelled for that? Should you be expelled for joining in on these protests? I think these protesters should go to jail if they're told to leave private property and they don't, and they should be charged with trespassing. But I don't think that the argument should hinge on what kind of protest it was, hate-filled, anti-Semitic or not. Were you asked to leave private property? Did you refuse? That's a trespassing charge. Would Governor Abbott be taking such a hard stance if it wasn't the same kind of protest? I don't know. And Abbott was blasted by many on Twitter for his poorly worded statement, as people put it, because he did suggest that he believed anti-Semitism itself is an arrestable offense. And that's just not the case in America. The First Amendment is there to protect the most vile of speech, not puppies and rainbows. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is why we have it. So maybe it was a poorly worded statement. But it does seem like a lot of officials are hinging on this because of the anti-Semitism factor. And I just think that's free speech, man. Like, as much as you can disagree with it, as much as I disagree with it, as much as you disagree with it, that's free speech. They should be arrested for refusing to leave private property, but not because they're anti-Semitic. And there's been a lot of people weighing in on these protests. A lot. Because they're happening everywhere. I mean, the president of Colombia, she's been called on to resign by Mike Johnson. He went to Colombia yesterday. I don't know why Mike Johnson went to Colombia, to be perfectly honest with you. I thought it was a weird flex. Why show up? Is he trying to look tough in Republican circles, possibly? But I didn't understand why the Speaker of the House, whose state is Louisiana, felt the need to go to Colombia, but he did. And when he went there to speak, you know, he was booed and he was heckled. You want to give me a little audio?
Let's listen live on the Columbia campus.
So, thank you all for being here today. We have several members of Congress here, and we're here today at one of America's preeminent academic institutions on a very important day and a very important time. Throughout history, Columbia students have contributed to the great storybook of America's life and thought. Visionary American leaders like Alexander Hamilton and John Jay and the Jewish leader Gershom Shashis knew the self-evident truth that was at the heart of this country and once at the heart of this university, and that is that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights. They should not be infringed.
No, it shouldn't be infringed. I just don't understand the flex of going to Columbia to give this speech when he could have just done it in D.C. There were other Republicans there, like Mike Lawler, who called protesters an abomination.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for being here in New York. I want Palestinians to be free, too, from their oppressor, Hamas. And every single one of you students that support Hamas are an absolute abomination.
I mean, I get where he's coming from. I don't know. I doubt that every single one of those students in the crowd supports Hamas. As we saw from audio leaking out of the protest yesterday, a lot of these protesters don't even know what they're protesting. They have no idea what the issue is. Johnson called for arrests, and he calls for the Columbia president to resign.
This kind of hatred and anti-Semitism to flourish on our campuses, and it must be stopped in its tracks. Those who are perpetrating this violence should be arrested. And I'm here today joining my colleagues and calling on President Shafiq to resign if she cannot immediately bring order to this chaos. As Speaker of the House, I am committing today that the Congress will not be silent as Jewish students are expected to run for their lives and stay home from their classes hiding in fear.
So Mike Johnson calling for the president of Columbia to resign. The crowd actually was was pretty responsive to Mike Johnson. I know he was booed and he was heckled in the beginning, but towards the end, they really came around.
Mike, you suck! Mike, you suck! Mike, you suck! Mike, you suck! Mike, you suck!
Not fans. Matt in Nashville, you're next on Super Talk. What's up, Matt?
Hi, yes. I was watching the Five one day. I saw this clip, and a clip of the Five, and Harold Ford, Democrat, made it perfectly clear and made perfect sense. If anybody who supports says, "Hey, I support Hamas," well, they should be arrested. That's just like saying I support ISIS. Anybody else said that, they would be arrested for supporting terrorism. So when are we going to start arresting these kids for supporting terrorists? And start doing things logically instead of illogically. Excuse me. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Thanks.
I appreciate your call. I mean, I don't know. Can somebody be arrested for saying that they support ISIS, or do you have to physically support them? You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, you can be arrested for things that you say, yeah, but I don't know what the line is. There's a limit to freedom of speech, obviously, though. We know this.
A lot of these kids are just idiots.
Oh, yeah.
They don't know what they're protesting.
Bingo.
They have no idea what's going on. They just don't. They're useful idiots caught up in this game. I saw Owen Schroyer, who's a journalist. He was on the ground at UT Austin, and he's talking to protesters, and he's like, "Hey guys, instead of lynching this on divisive issues, why don't we see what we can come to in the middle? Instead of saying, we need to get rid of Israel or free Palestine, why don't we say, let's stop funding foreign wars? Because I think all of us can agree on that. There is middle ground that we can really get to here if we take time. Maybe we can say, our government isn't using our tax dollars in the right way. And we want to rein in how they're spending our tax dollars. Maybe stop funding foreign wars." And all the protesters are like, yeah, we actually kind of agree with that. But these movements, they get co-opted and they get funded by radical elements like George Soros and the like. And then they're not what they originally became. And we've seen this so many times with Occupy Wall Street, the origin of Black Lives Matter versus where it went and what it became. And now this is being co-opted as well. And you have a lot of people pouring a lot of money into these protests, boy. I mean, it's a lot of money. But, it's crazy. Is it a distraction? Is it a distraction from actual problems going on? I mean, it's been dominating a lot of the news coverage. Would you consider these protests on college campuses a distraction? 615-737-9986. I think some people would. I know some people do. Should this even be the lead story on the news currently? Or should we just not breathe any air into this and wait for it to go away? It's 920 on Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
Got some road work going on in Williamson County. It has Carter's Creek Pike closed between Pope's Chapel Road and Barker Road until 3 o'clock today. A crash on 40 westbound right before the 2440 east split. The left shoulder is blocked there. And New York's highest court overturning Harvey Weinstein's conviction for rape. We'll tell you about it at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It's 9:26 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We've been talking about these protests on college campuses. Bobby in the borough wants to weigh in. What's up, Bobby? You're on Super Talk.
Hey, good morning, Chris.
Hey, how are you?
I agree with you. I think that this is all distraction with a bad economy. I mean, earlier we heard it was like 1 point something GDP growth. I mean, that is terrible in this country. I remember the days when we had 5-6% growth. Mike Johnson, I agree. I think he went up to Columbia to act strong. The Republican Party has no credibility anymore. I'm a conservative, but we shouldn't be lending money to any country when we're broke. We have no money. And I don't understand why the Republican Party expects us to go out and vote for them when they do the same thing election after election. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, and they end up caving. I mean, I just get tired of them.
Yeah.
I do.
I hear you, Bobby. I'm with you, man. I appreciate your call. To Bobby's counterpoint, I get people that disagree with me on the Members Nutrition text line. 8410 said, Chris, dude, you should be praising the Speaker of the House being there. That is true leadership and what we need right now. I don't think we needed Mike Johnson to travel to Columbia University on the taxpayer dime to call for the resignation and do essentially nothing except to be received with open arms. By all of the protesters that were there, because that was essentially nothing. That was essentially what we got out of it, was that everybody was mad at Mike Johnson. Isn't that crazy?
Mike, you suck! Mike, you suck!
He could have given the same exact speech at the Capitol, not wasted any taxpayer dollar money. Could have acted just as tough. Could have called for the resignation. Could have done all the things. Right? Couldn't he have? I think so. I think he could have given the same speech. Steven in Paris, you're next on Super Talk. What's up, Steve?
Hey, Chris. Yep, just like you said, they don't even really know what they're going against, what this is all about. I say, probably more than half of these kids are probably on free grant money that they're not going to have to pay back. The college, the head of the college is responsible for allowing this. I agree with you. The Speaker of the House don't need to be going there.
It just seemed like such a weird. It just seemed like such a weird move and flex by Mike Johnson.
It is. But there's only like a very small percentage of these kids. They're not even Palestinian. They don't even really have a drop of blood of any kind of foreign. They look like a bunch of skinny white, pale skin, weak, just snot nose.
Well, yeah, they have no idea that they would not be accepted in Palestine whatsoever. I mean,
right? Take them all. I'll tell you what. If they want to support Palestine, free Palestine, and all that, why don't they all just get on a plane, fly them over there, and drop them off in Gaza, and let's see how long they last over there, and let's see how long they want to support Palestine.
They'd be eaten for lunch.
They're spoiled rotten. Yeah, they're spoiled rotten. They're in our country. They're in college, and I mean they have no idea what this is all about. What I'm scared about the most, Chris, I'm gonna let you have it, is if this begins and then you have other groups of free Americans that want to rally against this, it's not going to be it's not going to take long for one of these illegal immigrants from Palestine or from Iran that have snuck into this country to throw on a vest and walk up into a crowd of people and blow everybody to kingdom come. I mean, that's what's going to happen if we allow this to continue to go on like this.
It's a scary thought, but I can't say that it's off the table. I appreciate the call, Steven. Thanks so much, man. It is 9:31 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 2 minutes. New York's highest court has overturned Harvey Weinstein's conviction for sex crimes against 3 women, ruling the trial judge erroneously allowed testimony related to prior uncharged acts, and that the judge abused his discretion when he allowed Weinstein to be cross-examined about these acts. Double court day for former President Trump. His legal team making their case to the Supreme Court this morning on his claims of absolute immunity in his federal election interference case, of which he spoke to reporters outside of his hush money trial in New York this morning.
If you don't have immunity, you're not going to do anything. You're going to become a ceremonial president. You're just going to be doing nothing. You're not going to take any of the risks, both good and bad.
And here in Tennessee, a bill that would have banned local governments from paying to study reparations or actually paying for reparations to slave descendants is dead for the year. Fox 17 says it was killed in the House yesterday when nearly 30 Republicans joined House Democrats in tabling the bill, including House Speaker Cameron Sexton. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. We've been talking about the protests on college campuses around the nation. It's been insane. Mike Johnson threatening Columbia. He's threatening to withhold federal funds over these protests. We had USC protesters blocking police, Texas making arrests at UT Austin, a Gaza camp at Harvard. They're everywhere. The distinguished gentleman from Lebanon, Tennessee wants to comment on this. Calvin, what's up, man?
Hey, Chris.
How are you,
just
sir?
wanted to say, all right, how are you?
Good.
All right. I just want to say, if all these youngins took all this positive energy and put towards something positive, all this energy towards something positive, they'd be millionaires and retire early. But, you know, it's all about being seen and heard. And the more attention we give them, which I know it's news, they're going to get attention. But my dad used to say back a long time ago, he'd say, don't look at them, don't look at them. He said that's exactly what they want, is you to look at them, and you give them exactly what they wanted. But it's ridiculous. They should hold back federal funds, because it's not until you hit these colleges in the pocket that everyone's going to come away from this wokeness. So
yeah, no, I hear you, man.
Say about it.
Hey, I appreciate the call, Calvin. Thanks so much. Yeah, if they could point their energy towards something good, maybe they could accomplish something good. They're aimless, though. They're aimless. And the protests are happening everywhere. There was an NYU professor. His name's Scott Galloway. He did an interview with MSNBC, which I thought it was a fantastic interview, actually. And you know, he's calling out the double standard on these protests, how, you know, essentially you couldn't do this kind of a protest if you were wearing a white hood.
And I do think there is a double standard. I walked by NYU last night. What I saw was peaceful protests. But I can tell you, if I went into the NYU square with a white hood on and said, lynch the blacks or burn the gays, my ID would be shut off by that night. And I would never work in academia again. There would be no need for the words context or nuance. I wouldn't be protected by terms like First Amendment or free speech. I would be out of the world of academia. It seems like we have a double standard when it comes to hate speech, as long as it's against Jews.
Yeah, no, I mean, there is a definite double standard. You can speak, you know, against Jews as negatively as you want to on these college campuses, and that's totally fine. I do worry that U.S. politicians are going to use the guise of anti-Semitism to further restrict free speech rights in this country. I do worry about that slippery slope as legislation gets introduced. That does make me nervous because, again, the First Amendment, and listen, they're vile, what people say, but you're allowed to say it. You are. But he does, this NYU professor, he does accept some blame for the culture that they've created on these college campuses. He says, listen, we created this. We fostered this. It's essentially the professor's fault.
I also think that incorrectly students on campus conflate the civil rights movement with what is going on in Palestine and have digressed, unfortunately, because of an orthodoxy promoted by me and my colleagues that there are oppressors and oppressed, and the easiest way to identify oppressors is how white and how rich they are. Fairly or unfairly, Israel is seen as ground zero for whiteness and how wealthy they are.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're allowed to go at white people, right? That's been demonstrated time and time again. And unfortunately, all of my Jewish friends, you are now white in the eyes of radical leftists. He accepts blame. This has been taught through academia now for a couple decades. White guilt. You can't be racist if you have power. All these things, right? And we're seeing it kind of thrown up on college campuses now. And we're seeing the repercussions of it. And now it's an issue. He also blames TikTok.
And then what might sound paranoid doesn't mean I'm wrong. I think we are being manipulated, specifically youth, who their frame for the world is TikTok. And if you look at TikTok, there are 52 videos that are pro-Hamas or pro-Palestinian for every one served on Israel. I think that we are being manipulated. I think Americans are easier to fool than convinced they've been fooled. But if I were the CCP, I'd be doing exactly the same thing. I think social media is sowing division and polarization in our society.
Social media is sowing division and polarization. And he blames the CCP. Maybe that's the truth. Listen, it's always been the communist game plan to divide via race and religion in a way to take down America. But it's not just social media. I think that more of the blame goes on the professors. But he has an epic rant here. And I want to play this in its entirety. It's about 2 minutes. Scott Galloway, he's an NYU professor. And he talks about the breakdown of society. Why are these young kids out there protesting? Why are they so angry? What has led to this? And I think everybody should listen to this and understand where a lot of the anger is coming from. And they don't know where to aim it. They don't know much about American politics, let alone the intricacies of Israel versus Palestine, these protesters. But they do have this anger, and they want to aim it somewhere.
For the first time in our nation's history, a 30-year-old man or woman isn't doing as well as his or her parents were at 30. That is the social compact breaking down. People aged 30 to 34, 60% of them in 1990 had one child. Now it's 27%. People are opting out of America. They're not optimistic about it. They're not having kids. Young people aren't having sex. They're not meeting. They're not mating. The pool of emotionally and economically viable men shrinks every day, which lessens household formation. So we have a real issue. Young people are enraged. So it turns every cut, every movement into an opportunistic infection because, quite frankly, they are just pissed off. They look up, they see wealth, exceptional wealth across my generation and people in certain industries, and they are really struggling. Their purchasing power is going down, and the incumbents create artificial scarcity on campus. We take pride in rejecting 90% of our applicants, so the incumbents who already have a degree see their degree go up in value. We get very concerned with housing and traffic once we own a housing. Housing permits are sequestered from young people. Housing prices have gone from $290 to $420 in the last 4 years. So a young person, a house, stocks that I don't own skyrocket in value. Let's have COVID relief and flush the markets and take assets way up, because if 1 million people dying would be bad, it would be tragic if I got less wealthy. And we're doing it on their credit card. Young people have every reason to be enraged, and every issue they see, they look up, they get angry, and they see someone doing better than them. And then every day it is speedballed in their face that they are failing, that they are not doing as well as everyone around them. We have lost the script. Our kids are more anxious and more depressed and more obese and more addicted. And we have made a purposeful decision to let this happen by ensuring that people around this table stay wealthy at the cost of young people.
We should all take notice of what he just said there, because this is where the anger comes from. You get out of college, you're saddled with debt, you're working at a Starbucks, you can't buy a home, you're not dating. You can't find a girlfriend. You can't find a boyfriend. You don't have a family. You don't have kids. You don't have religion. You don't have purpose. The entire fabric of American society has been just shredded these past few decades. And then we look around and we go, what happened? Yet they're still sending billions overseas to fund foreign wars. They're still letting millions in at our porous southern border. The government doesn't care about the citizens. Nothing is getting better. House prices are going up. Food prices are going up. Gas prices are going up. We're hit over the head every day about the fears of World War III. What if there's a civil war? I mean, it's no wonder that these young kids are looking to latch on to something and to try to make a difference somewhere, as misguided as they may be. But I think that the leadership in these schools need to hold themselves accountable. The leadership in our country needs to hold themselves accountable, because we're all part of the problem. That was Scott Galloway. He's a professor at NYU. And while all these protests are going on, the FBI director is telling us that we could have another terrorist attack. We're worried that there's going to be a terrorist attack. And I see this just dominating the news cycle, and I do worry that this is just a distraction. I do. It's maybe it's not a distraction, but it's definitely a reaction to the state of the country and how young people see how this country's going and what direction we're moving in. They don't know why they're protesting, but they do know they're angry. And to be perfectly honest, I think that they have every right to be angry when you look around and you see what's going on in our country. And I think that we could find more middle ground. I mentioned Owen Schroyer earlier, talking to protesters at UT Austin. Hey, guys, instead of making this about Palestine, Israel, why don't we make this about stop funding foreign wars? That could be something that we could rally together on. But we won't. We'll keep us divided because that's easier for the people in power, right? It's 9:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. I got to tell you, my friends at the Glock store, they're having their open house again June 1st. It is the 4th annual open house. It's happening Saturday. It's a Saturday, June 1st, 10 to 2 p.m. And you're going to be able to go. You're going to be able to have fun. Check out the Glock store. And you're going to be winning some amazing prizes. Where else can you go where they're going to be giving away over $10,000 worth of incredible prizes like red dot optics from Vortex and Holosun, or tritium-powered night sights from True Glow and High Vis, weapon lights with lasers from Nightstick. They're going to be giving away pistol and rifle bags from Saviors, and the raffle list just keeps growing and growing and growing. The Nightstick low light, no light competition, that's back by popular demand, which is going to be fun, and they're going to do hourly prizes for the top score. The fast and accurate competition is back as well. And the top shooter in that competition is going to win a Glock 19 that is going to be all dressed up to show your Tennessee pride. You are definitely going to want to win that Glock. But if you're not up to the task of winning shooting competitions yet, well, the Glock store is going to be the great place for you to get trained up so you can win some. But you can also just enter to win a Glock store customized Glock worth $2,000. You don't have to join any competition for that. You only need to be there to enter. You don't even have to be there to win. They'll call you if you win. Just show up. Join us. June 1st, 10 to 2 at the one and only Glock store. I'll be there. Matt Murphy's going to be there. Dan Mandis. And we're going to be minutes from the airport, worth the drive from anywhere, at the Glock store on June 1st.
Former President Trump's legal team making their case to the U.S. Supreme Court. We'll tell you what's happened to an effort to squash any effort at reparations for slave descendants here in Tennessee. All this and more at 10 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It's 9:57 on Super Talk. My name is Chris Hand. Find me on Twitter, True Social, Instagram, at Chris Hand on Air. There was a Fox News reporter who had the quote of the day about the scariest thing about these protesters.
And the issue is it may not affect everybody in our country, but these people are young and they're going to age. And at some point, they're going to make up an extremely influential segment of America's people, and we are all going to suffer the consequences.
Yes, I think he kind of nailed it. I think he nailed it. It doesn't matter where you're at on the protests. I think a lot of these kids are useful idiots. And he's right. At a certain point, they're going to make up a very influential part of the country, and they're useful idiots.
I didn't know where he was going with that, but that was nice.
I know.
And at some point, they're going to make up an extremely influential segment of America's people, and we are all going to suffer the consequences.
We are.
And it's going to be really bad.
I feel like I'm suffering now.
Yeah.
Ilhan Omar also went on MSNBC last night. She was talking about Speaker Mike Johnson going to Columbia. And I don't want to defend Mike Johnson's Columbia visit. I think it was dumb. I don't think that it was necessary. I think he could have done the same thing in D.C. without having the taxpayer pay for his flight and his crew and his security. Like, how much do you think that trip cost?
Oh, jeez.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, we're $34 trillion in debt. Post a selfie video like Burchett on Twitter. Like, that's it. That's all you need to do. And you get your message out there. You're Speaker of the House. People will watch it. I'm not defending the visit. Don't like the visit. But Ilhan Omar's comments on the visit, even dumber than the visit itself.
And it is not surprising that he would go out to Columbia University and stir up really more anger and hate and endanger the lives of young people who are at the encampment at Columbia University.
Oh, so Mike Johnson's visit endangered the lives of the young people at Columbia. Like, I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place here. It's like, do I defend Mike Johnson or do I bash Mike Johnson? I don't know. I think the visit was dumb to Columbia. I don't think he endangered the lives of young people at the encampment.
Those can both be true at the same time.
Okay, good to know. It's 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Ten o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 2 minutes. And right now in our nation's capital, former President Trump's legal team making their case to the Supreme Court on his claims of immunity in his federal election interference case. Trump says that his efforts after the 2020 election were official. He says he was trying to ensure election integrity. So the Trump legal argument here is that presidents must have that immunity from prosecution or else they won't be able to function in office. But listen to this line of questioning from liberal Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor.
If the president decides that his rival is a corrupt person and he orders the military or orders someone to assassinate him, is that within his official acts that for which he can get immunity?
It would depend on the hypothetical, but we can see that could well be an official act.
It could.
A ruling in Trump's favor could threaten special counsel Jack Smith's January 6th case and others. Here in Tennessee, a bill that would have banned local governments from paying to study reparations or actually paying for reparations to slave descendants is dead for the year. Fox 17 says it was killed in the House yesterday. Might have been due to some pressure because the idea of reparations was brought up at a time when lawmakers were in the process of finalizing the removal and replacement of every board member of the state's only publicly funded historically black public university, Tennessee State University. So on the reparations ban yesterday, nearly 30 Republicans joined House Democrats in tabling the bill, including Republican House Speaker Cameron Sexton. And New York's top court has overturned the Harvey Weinstein sex crimes case against 3 women due to an error by the judge allowing outside testimony from alleged victims not included in the complaint. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Been talking about these protests. It seems to be the big story of the day. Massive. Massive. We also have the Supreme Court arguing immunity for the president. We have Donald Trump in court. It's been a busy news week, to say the least. And the people in New York, they absolutely love Donald Trump as he was arriving to court today.
We love Trump! We love Trump! We love Trump! We love Trump!
They were very excited to see the former president. It's amazing. Is New York going to go red? Is New York going to go red? There were citizens there who are really feeling like it might. And with all these protests, with the inflation, with Trump essentially campaigning only in New York these past couple weeks, is New York going to turn red? One guy down on the street thinks so.
How was it seeing the former president?
Oh, it was absolutely incredible to see him on the streets of Manhattan, meeting up with, your working class folks here, the type that are out working hard at 6 a.m. It was my first time ever meeting him, and it was really dope. So,
what's your message to Joe Biden?
My message to Joe Biden: I haven't seen you anywhere. I hope New York turns red because we're not voting for you.
I haven't seen you anywhere. I hope New York turns red because we're not voting for you. That's the message on the ground for Joe Biden. It's amazing. It's amazing. And as we go towards 2024, we're seeing more and more people standing with Trump. We are. There's new polling out. Trump is up in 6 swing states. 6. And he's leading in a bunch. He only trails by 2 in Michigan, which I found a little bit shocking, given all the nature of all these protests, the Abandon Biden movement. But the new poll found that Joe Biden is trailing Trump in 6 of 7 key 2024 battleground states, and that margin in Michigan is slim. The poll was conducted by Bloomberg News Morning Consult. It found that Trump leads in Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, while Biden leads in Michigan. This is good news. This is good news. A previous version of this same poll conducted in March found that Trump led in 4 swing states. So he's gaining momentum. He's gaining in the polls. And they're saying that some of the shine of the State of the Union address has worn off. I didn't know the State of the Union address gave any shine. That was news to me.
Oh, yeah.
You think
shimmery.
It was shimmery?
Oh, yeah.
So the best part about all this, the polls, a couple, we heard Dr. Joe Biden. She was like, what polls? He's leading in all these polls. Joe Biden's like, I'm up in the polls, right? The Biden campaign sent out an email last night. Do you want me to read you the email?
Oh, yeah.
Subject line: truth is, we're losing in some of the polls. and then this is the email that I have. All right, ready? I don't understand why he talks like this. Like, you pay attention, folks. Folks. In email marketing, and I'm not like an email marketing genius. I'm sure some of you guys on the Members Nutrition text line do this for more of a living. But I've talked to a lot of email marketing professionals. You're looking for that one-to-one connection, right? It's one person opening up an email and reading it. So to open up an email and address it as a group, it's like, hey, y'all, gather around. I got a message from the president. Like, nobody does that with the emails. So to start with, you pay attention, folks. It's like you've already failed. You've already failed. You pay attention, folks. So there's no reason to hide it. The truth is, our campaign is trailing in a number of national and battleground state polls. To be clear, we lead in some, but we trail in others. And we need to acknowledge the very real possibility that Donald Trump could win this election. While we wish it didn't have to be this way, our ability to take the lead comes down to you. That's all I got. I screenshotted it. I
was going to say, you received this?
I didn't bother reading the rest of it. No, I didn't. I should sign up for his emails.
I was going to say, you should get on the email list.
I should get on the email list. No, I saw this on Twitter. In a one-to-one email message, why would you address it as a group?
Yeah.
Like, you pay attention, folks. Hey, everyone.
Yeah.
Like, no, you're
talking to, yeah.
It's one person
100%.
on their phone solo.
Yep.
Address it as one-to-one. That irritates me immensely.
Hey, guys.
But this is Joe Biden in a nutshell. They have no idea what they're doing digitally. None. Anyway, I guess I shouldn't get hung up on that so much. Like, I mean, he's failing the country in much larger ways, and I'm criticizing the first sentence of his campaign email.
His email etiquette.
Yeah. But it did. It made me mad. It made me mad. And voters in Pennsylvania, they're not huge fans of Joe Biden, and the polling shows Trump is up in Pennsylvania.
I'm not very happy with Joe Biden. I'm not really happy with the progress we've had in his term right now.
Well, we've had progress. It's just been the other way.
The economy, I think, is just in a really weird spot. We've sort of hit post-COVID recovery, except inflation's going crazy. I think really it just needs to sort of be taken under control right now.
Yeah, it needs to be taken under control. It should be taken under control. They are saying that Trump has gotten a warning from Republican voters in Pennsylvania. I mean, I don't know. It's tough because you never know what's going to happen in Allegheny County, which is Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, right? I think Pennsylvania is going to be Trump country, but they say Trump gets a warning from Republican voters in Pennsylvania because more than 155,000 vote for Nikki Haley in the primary, even though she dropped out last month. So Trump lost 156,000 something votes to Nikki Haley in Pennsylvania's primary on Tuesday, even though Haley was already out of the race. They worry that this indicates Trump isn't as strong in Pennsylvania general election as polls previously showed. I don't know. You listen to voters on the ground. I don't think they're going to vote for Joe Biden. But almost 17% of Republican voters in Pennsylvania cast their ballot on Tuesday for Nikki Haley, even though she's no longer in the race. That's interesting. That is something to take note of. This isn't. If it was DeSantis, I might feel a little bit differently. I feel like the DeSantis pros have come over to the Trump train now. But I mean, at this point, a lot of Haley voters in the primaries were voting to, kind of throw a monkey wrench into the plan for Trump and keep Haley along as far as she could go. 155,000 after she's dropped out. That's interesting. And David Axelrod, former Obama insider, and he's tight with all those losers. He's on CNN yesterday, and he's saying that the Pennsylvania Republican primary results show resistance from Republican voters to former President Trump. He said that there's resistance. I don't know. I mean, he said obviously there's resistance to Trump. This was a closed primary, so there were Republicans voting. There's a contingent of Republican voters who are reluctant about Trump. I'm sure this trial is helping their feelings about that, and this is a way to express that. The question is, does that translate into a vote? I think that we're going to see all those voters come back. I think that if your choice is Trump or Biden, the choice is clear. I could be wrong, but I don't know. Maybe that was like a little protest vote. I don't know. It's such a weird anomaly. 155,000 Haley voters in a closed primary. Should we be worried about Pennsylvania? I don't know. I'll tell you what, though. The more Joe Biden gets out there and speaks, the less worried I am about the general election. Because every time he gets out there and he speaks, it is absolute chaos. It's chaos. He's at a trade union event in D.C. last night. And the first clip I have, I don't know how we're going to use it, when we're going to use it, but we need this as a hotkey. Okay? You ready for it?
Yes.
All right. This has to be a hotkey of some sort.
Not in my household, not in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
Isn't that a good one?
Oh, that's great.
Not in my household, not in my neighborhood.
Why does he randomly yell like this?
It is out of nowhere.
You're in a room with 15 people. Why do you need to yell at them?
Not in my household, not in my neighborhood.
He does, though. He yells. We almost got middle from the middle again at the D.C. Union, at the D.C. trade event.
Folks, one of the reasons I ran for president was to rebuild the backbone of the middle class. And we have. We're following my blue-collar blueprint to rebuild America, and guess what? It's working.
It's working. Do you feel like the middle class has been rebuilt under Biden? Honest question. I feel like it's been destroyed under Biden.
Bingo.
Destroyed. And it's like, why is he saying this? Do the low IQ voters of the left actually just like eat all of this up and believe it? Like, yeah, the middle class is strong. It's not. People are struggling to pay groceries. People can't buy homes. How is this middle class stronger under Joe Biden? Somebody explain it to me. Please. Please. It's infuriating. And then we get just classic Biden. Classic Biden.
The guy has never worked a day in a working man's boots. By the way, you gave me a pair of boots as a gift, by the way. I know how to put them on. I still sometimes cut the yard. The Secret Service doesn't let me do it anymore.
So which is it, Mr. Biden? Do you cut the yard, or does the Secret Service not let you do it anymore? And he talks about the climate. It's all about the climate right now, too. Climate's a big deal.
Most significant investments in climate ever. The work that you risk your life doing, lots of it.
Oh. The climate work is significant, and it's the worst. It's the work that you risk your lives doing it.
Most significant investments in climate ever. The work that you risk your life doing lots of it.
The work that you risk your life doing lots of it.
Your life doing lots of it.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
I risk my life every day to fight climate change. Don't you? Who doesn't? It's embarrassing. So you hear this man talk, and you're like, okay, there's no way Trump can lose a general election against him, right? But then you hear protesters at these college campuses talk, and you're like, oh gosh, what are we getting ourselves into?
If I didn't root for every Philly team out there, I'd be sleeping alone. You all think I'm kidding.
This is him trying to be a human. This is Joe's best attempt.
And by the way, did you know there are only 2 presidents in American history who left office with fewer American jobs than they entered it? Herbert Hoover and, yes, Donald Herbert Hoover Trump. Only 2.
Yeah, let's ignore the pandemic, right? Let's ignore Donald Trump wanting to reopen the economy by Easter. Let's ignore that. Also, is this the lamest attempt at a nickname ever?
Herbert Hoover and, yes, Donald Herbert Hoover Trump.
Donald Herbert Hoover Trump?
It's just too long.
It's not Sleepy Joe. But he says Trump has a vision for America.
Donald Trump's vision of America is one of revenge and retribution.
Sign me up.
A defeated former president who sees the world from Mar-a-Lago and bows down to billionaires, who looks down on American union workers. It's not just he's not supporting, he looks down on us.
I love how he says us. He looks down on us. He looks down on me in my beach home in Rehoboth.
No, I'm not joking. Think about it. Think about the guys you grew up with, you'd like to get into the corner and just give them a straight left.
Oh.
I'm not suggesting we hit the president.
That's literally what you suggested.
But we all know those guys growing up. We all know guys like that growing up. My vision of America is one of hope.
Oh, okay. So the guy says Trump is he divides America, right? Trump's always dividing America. I would like to give him a straight left in the corner. Trump has violent rhetoric. He said bloodbath. Biden gets on stage and says he wants to punch Trump. What?
Are you ready to choose unity over division, dignity over hate, truth over lies? Are you ready to choose freedom over democracy?
Yeah, freedom over democracy.
We can do this. I give you my word as a Biden, I've never been more optimistic about our future in mind.
He's never been more optimistic. Never. But this was the quote. This was the quote to end all quotes.
Imagine what we can do next. 4 more years. Pause. 4 more years. Pause. 4 more years. 4 more years.
Did you catch what he said there?
Pause.
He read the part on the teleprompter that he wasn't supposed to read.
In parentheses.
4 more years. Pause.
4 more years. Pause.
Imagine what we can do next. 4 more years. Pause. 4 more years.
Damn it, for the last time, anything you put on that prompter, Burgundy will read.
It's the truth. Anything you put on that teleprompter, he'll read. It's a giant teleprompter. I'm assuming pause was in parentheses too, right?
I mean, I would assume.
Imagine what we can do next. 4 more years. Pause.
4 more years. Damn it, for the last time, anything you put on that prompter, Burgundy will read.
All right, drivers got a crash on the South Loop eastbound. The right lane is blocked right there at the downtown split from 40 to hit 24. Also, President Trump's attorneys are making their case for immunity from prosecution to the U.S. Supreme Court. Hear what one of the liberal justices just asked those attorneys, coming up at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Looking forward to that. Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. When you look at the videos and the pictures from the crowd that Trump drew in New York this morning at a construction site, it's insane. I don't think that Joe Biden could draw this kind of a crowd at all. And you know what? The people in New York, they're being asked questions on the ground, and they're saying, listen, the left made us do this. They've gone so far left that they've pushed us to the other side.
In the past, we are basically Democrats, all of us. And after what's happened the last 4 years in this country, Democrats are basically pushing everybody to the other side. We're a very patriotic group, and we love our country, and we want the best for America. We are tired of immigration. We're tired of our tax dollars going to immigration. We're tired of the crime. We need to put a handle on things in this country and bring it back to how it should be.
The Democrats have become the party of the ultra-wealthy.
Democrats have become the party of the ultra-wealthy. I have to imagine New York is in play, right? Especially New York City. And really, it comes down to the fact that nobody can afford anything. We just heard the economy numbers are worse than expected, but it's been bad in New York for a while. It's been bad in this country for a while because of the inflation numbers.
Next tonight, new insight into your top concerns when it comes to the rising cost of just about everything. A new report from No Kid Hungry says the cost of food is increasing faster than the paycheck for a majority of families, forcing them to make cuts around the dinner table. So tonight, I'm diving into that report. I'm giving a voice to the organizations here at home working towards a solution. No Kid Hungry says 85% of families believe food costs are rising faster than their income. Nearly half of New Yorkers say in the last 12 months it has become much harder to afford groceries. But higher prices also impacting some people more than others. 43% of school families and rural residents say they eat low quality or limited food items because of the cost. Compare that to 32% of all New Yorkers.
And I know that report's just on New York, but we're seeing that across the country. And it's a result of Biden's disastrous economic policies. And they keep telling us it's going to get better, but it's not.
At first quarter GDP, the annual rate 1.6% between January and March. The expectation was 2.4%. This is a much lower than anticipated number. As a refresher, the final 3 months of last year, growth was 3.4%. So we're going from 3.4% all the way down to 1.6%. The consumer is slowing down. Inflation remains high. The Atlanta Fed, as of now, has their GDP now number at 2.7. So there you have it, 1.6%. First look at first quarter.
1.6%. The people have to be thinking we have to try something new, right? We cannot keep repeating this insanity. And I'm talking especially about blue states, blue cities. Because 1.6%, that's terrible. Trump commented on that this morning.
As you probably have heard, some very big things have happened, but the biggest seems to be that the GDP just announces all the way down to 1.6%, and it's heading south. It's going to get worse. Gas prices in California were just also announced at $7.60. Gasoline is going way up. Energy costs are going way up. And the stock market is, in a sense, crashing. The numbers are very bad. This is Bidenomics. It's catching up with him. It's lucky that it's catching up before he leaves office as opposed to after he leaves office. But this is Bidenomics. It's destroying our country at the border, destroying our country with other countries. They no longer respect the United States. I think the dollar's in tremendous trouble in terms of currency. This is going to be the standard, and it's going to be the standard with me. With Biden, you're going to lose. The dollar is the standard. That'll be like losing the biggest war we've ever lost.
November, it's so close, yet it's so far away. 10:30 on Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
10:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 2 minutes. President Trump's attorneys making their case for immunity from prosecution to the U.S. Supreme Court, arguing Trump was acting in official capacity for election integrity in the election interference case against him. But Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, in questioning Trump's lawyer John Sauer, raised this question.
Let me put this worry on the table. If the potential for criminal liability is taken off the table, wouldn't there be a significant risk that future presidents would be emboldened to commit crimes with abandon while they're in office?
Meanwhile, in New York City, jurors in the criminal hush money trial of Trump continuing to hear testimony from David Pecker, the former publisher of the tabloid The National Enquirer. And in Tennessee, lawmakers have decided to move on from banning reparations for slave descendants. It came at a time when they were preparing to remove every board member of the state's only publicly funded historically black public university, TSU. Fox 17 says nearly 30 Republicans joined Democrats in tabling the bill, with Speaker Cameron Sexton leaving open the possibility it can be brought up at another time. Lawmakers really started focusing on the ban after Shelby County, which encompasses Memphis, announced it would spend $5 million to study reparations. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Imagine what we can do next. 4 more years. Pause.
4 more years. Damn it, for the last time, anything you put on that prompter, Burgundy will read.
That's true. Anything. Dan wants me to use the parrot AI to get Biden saying, "Go F yourself, America." You remember that from Anchorman?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to do that. It's 10:36 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. That's our president. Democrats often say the silent part out loud, but that's the president actually saying the silent part out loud.
Imagine what we can do next. 4 more years. Pause.
4 more years. Damn it, for the last time, anything you put on that prompter, Burgundy will read.
It's true. Many such cases. We're talking about the economy, Trump versus Biden. Got a text here from 7655, our friend Jim. He said, how is it even possible this election is close? Trump should be ahead by like 30 points. The country's being ripped apart. The economy sucks. We're being invaded. Crime is sky high. We send hundreds of billions of dollars to other countries, but don't take care of our veterans and our own citizens. And I totally don't understand. I'm with you. It's infuriating. It's absolutely infuriating. And then you get senior Biden advisors going on the talking head networks, the Mockingbird media, the CNNs, the MSNBCs. We had a senior Biden advisor, Gene Sperling, on the news this morning talking about how, listen, the economy's okay.
This isn't going to make for great reading this morning in the Oval Office, is it? Bidenomics equals inflation. That is not what Bidenomics, the narrative, was supposed to land with.
Well, that's not what it represents. And look, I understand this is your poll. You're going to promote it. But I think overall there's been lots of evidence that people are starting to appreciate more of the positive things in this economy.
They always say that, right? Oh, there's lots of evidence that it's working. That's what they say. They tell us it's working. But they never show us how it's working. That's all you say. They say it's working, and they say there's lots of evidence that shows it's working, but they never provide any evidence. Or even better, they'll say, well, we need to work better on our messaging. It's the messaging. People don't understand the messaging, but I think that the message is clear. When Trump left office, average gallon of gas was around $2.39. Today, the average gallon of gas is quite a bit higher. We're in the threes. Under Biden, under Trump, the national average never hit $3 a gallon. Under Biden, it hasn't been below $3 a gallon for over 1,000 days. I think people know what time it is. And I think that the worsening economy is why Trump's poll numbers are up in so many different states.
And a majority of swing state voters, Matt, see worsening economic conditions in the coming months. So that doesn't spell optimism for the Biden camp. Less than 1 in 5 respondents say they expect inflation and interest rates to be lower by the end of the year. And then more than 3/4 say that Biden is responsible for how they feel about the economy, which is in a very good mood. And more than half said that he is very responsible.
Very, very responsible for the economy. Biden is. Of course he is. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're going to see these protests on the mainstream news. This is going to be the big story. It's going to distract away from the economy. And the protests will be the big news. Make no mistake about it. That's what's going to lead on the evening news tonight. College campus protests. They're not going to lead with the economy. That's for sure. They're not going to lead with that. It'll be protests. Karine Jean-Pierre was asked about the protests. And she was asked, what are the president's thoughts on the protests?
Just what's the president's personal reaction to what he's seeing playing out on these college campuses? What would be his message to those who are peacefully protesting, those who feel targeted? on all sides of the community.
No, I hear your question. I think the president's been very clear. He put out a statement in his Passover statement. He talked about we can't be silent here. Silent is complicit.
That's such a DEI language right there. Silence is complicit. Silence is complicity. Oh, I think we know what the president's thinking. He doesn't want to address it at all.
We can't be silent here. Silent is complicit. And we can't allow that. We believe in First Amendment rights, right? We believe in people being able to express themselves in a peaceful manner. But when we're talking about hateful rhetoric, when we're talking about violence, we have to call that out.
But they're not going to call out Biden at the D.C. trade union event yesterday with his hateful rhetoric and violent rhetoric saying that he would punch the president in the face. That's not going to be, they're not going to call that out.
We have to call that. And we've been consistent here.
No, nothing about this administration has been consistent except for the inconsistencies.
Throughout this administration. The president has been consistent about it, obviously, since 2017, but even before that, when he saw what happened in Charlottesville. We have to call out hateful, violent rhetoric. But we want to make sure that people have the opportunity to peacefully protest. Peacefully protest.
Peacefully protest. I'm fine with peaceful protest, but if you're on private property, you got to go if they deem you as trespassing. That's just the way private property rights work in this country. I'm fine with a peaceful protest. But I love how she invokes Charlottesville. Oh, the president's felt this way since Charlottesville. He always pushes the very fine people on both sides hoax when it comes to Trump. He had his own very fine people on both sides moment the other day when addressing these protests. It's just a joke. She's a joke of a press secretary. We never get any actual information from her. We get word salad and a dance routine around the question. That's all you can really count on from KJP. One reporter thought maybe she would get something juicy with this question. She said, any concern about how law enforcement is handling protesters? Because, of course, it's a loaded question, right? Because, cops are bad if you're a Democrat.
Is there any concern about how law enforcement is handling these protesters?
I mean, look, I can't speak to what's going on the ground. I know what happened is just happening today. So I have no idea on how that's being dealt on the ground. But look, we've been very clear. We want to see this be peaceful.
Oh, okay. Been very clear. I wonder if they're going to address how the police manhandled the reporter trying to cover that. If you missed me talking about it earlier at UT Austin when police swept in, it kind of frustrated me. There's a reporter, and he's very clearly a reporter. This is not a citizen journalist. He doesn't have a cell phone for a camera. He has an over-the-shoulder, old-school newsman camera. He's wearing his press badge. There's pushing and shoving and suing in a crowd with protesters and police. He bumps into a police officer. A police officer from behind grabs him by the shirt collar and yanks him to the ground as his camera falls on top of him, and he's later arrested. And I think that the way they handled the press there was absolutely abhorrent. Absolutely abhorrent. I don't think that we're going to hear anything from the administration about that. This administration doesn't care about the press at all. They care about the ones that push their narratives and help peddle their lies, but they're not going to look out for actual journalists on the ground in those situations. What the reporter wanted was that clickbait moment where the ACAB, right? ACAB, right? Where cops are bad, cops are evil. Let's get Karine Jean-Pierre saying, Joe Biden's with the protesters here. She didn't take the bait. Good for her. But I wish that the people in power would speak out about the reporter who was assaulted by police. I think that was a little bit excessive, to say the least. And then Greg Abbott's comments about they're calling it a poorly worded tweet where he said these protesters belong in jail. Anti-Semitism will not be tolerated in Texas, period. Students joined in hate-filled anti-Semitic protests at any public college or university in Texas should be expelled. I would say to the governor that's absolutely opposite of the First Amendment. Protesters who are trespassing and not leaving private property should be arrested. Sure, for trespassing. But nobody should be arrested for anti-Semitism. The First Amendment covers the most vile of speech. And you can join in hate-filled anti-Semitic protests and not be arrested as long as you're not committing violence. We still have the First Amendment in this country. They called it a poorly worded tweet. Yeah, I think so. But the scenes out of Texas yesterday were definitely interesting. They weren't having it in Texas the same way they're having it in Colombia. You know, at Colombia, what's the deadlines this afternoon from the Colombia president for the protesters to make the non-students leave? I believe is the deadline. It's fascinating to watch this play out in real time. And this is going to be the big story. This will absolutely be the big story. Yeah, Colombia leadership, they're on record saying essentially, we're not going to call the cops. We're not. Wednesday morning, Columbia University leadership announced that they had extended negotiations with those occupying part of campus in what has become known as the Gaza camp. Columbia Students for Justice in Palestine wrote in a Wednesday afternoon press release that the university had issued a written commitment not to call the NYPD or the National Guard to clear out the camp. See, I feel like this is just so silly. You're trespassing at that point. You should be able to remove the protesters. Columbia's reliance on the threat of state violence against peaceful protesters has created an unstable ground for the negotiations process, which will continue over the next 48 hours. However, Columbia's written commitment and concession not to call the NYPD or National Guard signifies an important victory for students, that same group wrote. So those taking part in the protest, they were given a midnight deadline. Now they have a 48-hour deadline to discuss the dismantling of the encampment. It's a huge joke. The entire thing is a joke. And do you remember the Columbia professor that was going viral? He was a Jewish professor. His key card wasn't working at Columbia.
Yeah.
So he had been going viral, and he was calling for police escorts because he didn't feel safe as a Jewish person on campus. It turns out that this Columbia professor is actually a defund the police advocate. Isn't that amazing when that works out?
It's ironic.
You call the police when you need them. It brings me back to that clip where Scott Galloway, he's an NYU professor, and he took some accountability saying, like, we helped create these situations on college campuses.
I also think that incorrectly students on campus conflate the civil rights movement with what is going on in Palestine and have digressed, unfortunately, because of an orthodoxy promoted by me and my colleagues that there are oppressors and oppressed, and the easiest way to identify oppressors is how white and how rich they are, or fairly or unfairly. Israel is seen as ground zero for whiteness and how wealthy they are.
So he's saying, we have to take some accountability as professors. We've kind of fostered this environment with the division and the oppressor narrative. Well, this Columbia University professor who's been going viral because his key card wasn't working, he needed a police escort because he's Jewish. He's a business school assistant professor, Shai Davidai. He's Jewish, but he's trying to lead counter protesters now against the anti-Israel demonstration, right? He was very anti-police during BLM. Very anti-police. Wanted to defund the police. Yet now he needs police escorts on campus. Isn't it amazing how that always works out? Isn't that shocking? You created this environment with your leftist rhetoric, and then when the left inevitably eats itself, as the left always does, you scream for help. I don't feel bad for this guy. I don't feel bad for him at all. It's unbelievable. So yeah, he's for defunding the police until he needs them. It's 10:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Suspect still on the run after crashing his car and prompting a temporary lockdown in Laverne. And it appears Tennessee businesses may get a massive tax cut after all. These stories and more at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It's 10:57 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Find me on Twitter, True Social, Instagram, at Chris Hand on Air. I just saw a tweet from Joe Biden. Posted a tweet. Says over 1.6 million donors. And I know he didn't write it himself. There's no spelling errors. And he doesn't know how to use Twitter. But it's from his account. Over 1.6 million donors, more than 80,000 volunteers, 120 coordinated offices, 12 million texts to voters, 2.5 million voter calls. Thanks to you, this campaign is a grassroots groundswell that's taking on Trump's MAGA forces. It's a grassroots groundswell. Do you think that Joe Biden is running a grassroots campaign?
Bingo.
I don't think so. Actually, he's actually, you know what he's doing tonight? He's having a private fundraiser at what's this loser's name? Michael Douglas. You know Michael Douglas, the actor?
Probably.
Google him.
Up, yeah.
You'll once you see him, you'll know who I'm talking about. So he's having
of course. He's
having a private fundraiser at Michael Douglas's house. I don't even remember what movies he's been in.
Basic Instinct, Wall Street, The Game, Falling Down, Fatal Attraction.
It's been in some things.
Been in some things.
So Biden's having a private fundraiser tonight at his house in Westchester, New York. And because of this, you know, it's a grassroots event, right? When you have a private fundraiser at Michael Douglas's place, it's a grassroots thing. Because of that, 10,000 students across 5 districts in Westchester, New York, are having to leave school early. Some of the schools are closing as early as 11 a.m., and this is all because Biden is attending a private fundraiser tonight at Michael Douglas's house, and there's going to be road closures. They've canceled all after-school programs. I mean, if you're a parent and you have you're working hard in the Biden economy to put food on the table, now you have to find childcare, or you have to take the day off. Either way, you're losing money. If you're a high schooler preparing for finals in college and all these things, good luck. Day off. There's going to be road closures. They're going to be blocking highways, and none of it's going to be made public, obviously, for security reasons. And residents in at least 2 villages have been told to not travel at all after 2 o'clock.
Grassroots.
That's grassroots, right? Meanwhile, Trump shows up. Oh, hold on. Even better. Before I get to the Trump thing. The hosts are paying $100,000 for the privilege to host, and guests are paying $3,300 to attend, and a photo at the event will cost $30,000. That's grassroots. That's grassroots. And now Trump is in New York, right? Trump is in New York, and he randomly shows up, and he draws a massive crowd of New Yorkers. And one New Yorker was asked, you know, what about all these Republicans in New York? What do you think about it? And do you have a message for Joe Biden?
What's it like seeing so many Republicans in Manhattan, so many Trump supporters in Manhattan? Does that surprise you?
No, not at all. It's turning now. Trump's turn again.
What's your message to Joe Biden?
F you.
11 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 2 minutes. And right now, the Laverne Police Department looking for a suspect who crashed his car, then ran away and got away. Led to a temporary lockdown at City Hall and the public library. The suspect described as a black male wearing a black mask, khaki pants, a green sweatshirt, no shoes. Anyone who sees anything suspicious has to call 911 immediately. Breaking news from the Tennessee General Assembly. The Tennessean says the House and Senate have reached a deal on a franchise tax bill that revives the possibility of businesses being given a near $1 billion cut in taxes. And at the U.S. Supreme Court this morning, former President Trump's lawyers argued Trump deserves immunity from prosecution in the election interference case because he was acting in official capacity to uphold election integrity by questioning the 2020 outcome, and that prosecutorial immunity is necessary for a president to be able to effectively conduct his office. Justice Clarence Thomas asked whether the government was taking the position that there is no presidential immunity even for official acts. Answering for the government, Michael Dreeben said former President Trump's lawyers are going too far.
What petitioner is asking for is a broad blanket immunity that would protect the president, a former president, from any criminal exposure absent impeachment and conviction, which has never happened in our history. And we submit that is not necessary in order to assure that the president can perform all of the important tasks that the Constitution reposes in him.
A ruling in Trump's favor could threaten special counsel Jack Smith's January 6th case and others. Legal experts say Harvey Weinstein will stay behind bars even though his conviction was overturned in New York. New York's highest court overturning Weinstein's conviction for sex crimes against 3 women, ruling the trial judge erroneously allowed testimony related to prior uncharged acts, and that the judge abused his discretion when he allowed Weinstein to be cross-examined about those acts. A spokeswoman for the Manhattan DA's office says they will do everything in their power to retry the case. Weinstein was convicted separately of sex crimes in California. He'll now be transferred from New York to California. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Have you seen the members nutrition text line going nuts about Joe Biden and his grassroots campaign? He's got a grassroots campaign.
Grassroots.
He's all about the people. Scranton Joe.
Bingo.
Building the middle class. Building back better. We're building back better. It's middle from the middle, baby. That's what we do. In Joe Biden's economy, rich people are going to do good. Poor folks will have a shot. You know? That's the best quote ever.
That is.
Yeah, he's got his big grassroots fundraising tonight at Michael Douglas's house. I got one text, and they said, oh yeah, TB said, how can you not know who Michael Douglas is? I don't know.
Come on, bro.
He's just like, I mean, once I saw his picture, like I knew who he was.
Yeah, 100%.
But like, he's just a loser.
Just a movie guy.
He's just one of those movie guys. I don't worship movie guys. Do you worship movie guys?
Depends on the movie guy.
Depends on the movie guy.
I just wanted to upset you. No, I don't. I don't worship any of the movie guys. I do like the movie guys. Some of the movie guys. But no, I don't worship the movie guys.
Don't worship the movie guys.
There's a difference, though. You can like them. Know who they are.
Yeah. They can be talented and still just
of course,
evil and dumb. You know what I mean?
I think Douglas would fit that category.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. He's married to Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Yeah, I was seeing that.
Do you think that?
I didn't know that.
Do you think he's going to let Biden close enough to sniff? Do you? 4209 on the members nutrition text line says the sniff is definitely in. It's definitely happening. And I guess Douglas is now currently starring as Ben Franklin on Apple TV.
Yeah, we had some textures texting on that.
A couple people.
Apparently, it's good.
Do people watch Apple TV?
I think so.
I'm not a fan. Not going to watch Apple TV.
I have to look up the show, to be honest. I haven't heard of it.
What's it called? Franklin? Is it just called Franklin? Just Franklin?
Just Franklin.
All right.
Yep, just one season in.
What's the ratings on it? Do people like it? 3514 said Catherine Zeta-Jones is too old for Biden.
IMDb 7 out of 10, Rotten Tomatoes 67%, audience rating 3.5 stars.
Yeah, that sounds about right. When the critics pan it as good, the audience usually tells you the truth. The audience gave it 3.5 stars.
The audience like, yeah.
Yeah, nobody's watching that.
No one's watching that.
Nobody's watching that.
That's not what that means.
That's what it means.
3.5 stars? Yeah, no one's watching that.
Nobody.
I hadn't heard of it.
No. Does he wear a little wig thing?
I think so. I mean, the picture, yeah. Looking like he's wigged up.
Full Franklin?
Yeah, he's got like the actual hair. I don't know if this is a wig.
I wonder if he's going to wear the costume to the grassroots fundraiser tonight. You can find out. You can find out if you have an extra $3,300 laying around to attend.
They should like allow you to live stream it for like $1,000 or something.
Why wouldn't they do a live stream?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That'd be tempting.
I probably would want to watch that.
I would, yeah. I was going to say, I would, because I'd want to like pick up on conversations if I could.
Yeah, I mean, I doubt they'd have anybody mic'd up.
No, that's the thing. I would want mic'd up.
I would still watch. Like, what are you doing? Just watch
what
Biden.
What are you guys doing?
Roomba around the room. Imagine trying to watch Biden work a room.
Oh, gosh.
You can't work shoes.
No, and would be the easiest room to work, and he's still going to struggle. Because these are people who paid, thousands of dollars. Yep. Tens of thousands of dollars.
Yep. They said to him, they asked him where he wanted to hold the fundraiser, because obviously he has a say in that matter. And do you know what his response was?
Not in my household, not in my neighborhood.
So that's why they're doing it at Michael Douglas's. All right, so that's the grassroots fundraiser from Joe Biden. He needs to do something, especially have the comment that he made where he read 4 out loud on the teleprompter, where he read pause after 4 more years on the teleprompter. The White House is trying to clean that up.
Imagine what we can do next. 4 more years. Pause. 4 more years. Pause. 4 more years.
So he reads pause. Now, Biden's handlers They are trying so hard to pretend that didn't happen because it's just another embarrassing moment on top of embarrassing moments. And the White House official transcript read out like this. Folks, imagine what we can do next. 4, audience member, inaudible. The president, more years. In parentheses, inaudible. Audience, 4 more years, 4 more years, 4 more years. And the official White House transcript of this this clip right here, they don't include the word pause.
Imagine what we can do next. 4 more years. Pause. 4 more years.
Is that inaudible to you, what he says here?
Pause.
Would you consider that inaudible?
Pause.
Because on the official White House transcript, they do say that this pause is inaudible. Could you imagine being in the White House damage control room for Joe Biden these past couple weeks? We've had Uncle Bozy, and now we've had Teleprompter Gate. Cannibal Gate, Teleprompter Gate. It's been a tough week for cleaning up for the Biden administration and the president. Billy in Nashville, you're next on Super Talk. What's up, Billy?
Yeah, I'd just like to say I think it's quite fitting with the reputation that Michael Douglas had in Hollywood, along with him playing the part of Benjamin Franklin, because Benjamin Franklin could have actually been the father of our country with 17 children, many of them illegitimate.
Oh, okay. I got you. Thanks, Billy. Appreciate it.
Sweet.
All right. I don't know.
Sounds good. I don't know. All right.
Pause.
When in doubt.
Oh, my gosh. CNN also had to fact check that Biden never drove an 18-wheeler. They fact checked that.
Yeah, he didn't, right?
No.
Yeah.
No. Probably wouldn't even know where to start.
I wouldn't.
Full disclosure, I would not.
No. But we say that.
Yeah. I would never come on the air and say I drove an 18-wheeler.
Exactly.
Yep.
No, that's takes a whole, certification. That's not something that someone can just go do.
Yep. This is I'm not there for it. But as this is all happening, Joe Biden, he can't campaign on the economy. He can't campaign on stopping foreign wars. He can't campaign on foreign policy. He can't campaign on the border. He can't campaign on domestic policy. He's losing in so many different areas. So what does the White House do? Do you want to know what they're going to do?
What?
Declare a national emergency for climate. That's the game plan.
The White House telling Fox Business it's now considering declaring a national climate emergency. But that's a climate crisis to you, Mark. The AP, which sets the standards for newsrooms across the country, they're urging Americans to use the term climate crisis to address the current situation. This is all troubling, but if the president declares a climate emergency, what impact does that have?
Well, I mean, this is the serious story of the day. NBC News has reported that if Joe Biden declares a national climate emergency, he would have powers by which to bypass democracy and impose a Green New Deal on America without a single vote of Congress. This is truly this is a Halloween story, not a story for Earth Day. This is a truly frightening story, and he might just be desperate enough to do it. This is being widely reported in the media. The Biden White House is leaking this out. This might happen, and this is going to give Joe Biden, these kind of, you want to say the word dictatorial powers. He doesn't need no stinking democracy to impose the Green New Deal if he does this.
So they're going to maybe declare a climate emergency. We've heard this before back in 22. They were talking about this, but it's resurfaced lately. Bloomberg had an article about it last week. The Telegraph in the UK, they're reporting on this. Green calls for Biden emergency wartime climate powers are truly scary is the headline. So he could have war powers, essentially, if he declares an emergency. He could essentially have the same kind of powers that he had during COVID if he declares a climate emergency. And I kind of heard it. I heard them talk about it on Fox Business. I thought they were talking about, a couple years back when this first conversation happened. But then last week, Bloomberg had an article. White House renews internal talks on invoking climate emergency. Youth activists push Biden for a move ahead of November election. The emergency proclamation could be used to halt exports and stop drilling. It's scary, but they might do it because he has nothing else to campaign on. It's climate crisis, abortion, gun control. Those are his issues. That's it. And now we know White House officials have renewed discussions about possibly declaring a national climate emergency. It would unlock federal powers to stifle oil development. Perfect. This is exactly what everyone wants to do. They say it would further disrupt energy markets by slowing or stopping the flow of exports. It would inject even more inflation into the economy and raise prices on gasoline, groceries, airline tickets, rent, utility bills, and just about everything else in the already stretched monthly budgets of American families. The use of a wartime executive power to bolster his standing with a loud but vocal group of green activists at the expense of the economy and the oil and natural gas industry would be a new low. But as we've seen with Joe Biden many times over the course of this presidency, new lows are always coming. We always get new lows. That's something that we can absolutely count on with Joe Biden. And it's not just Fox Business talking about it. This isn't just conspiracy theories. There's others talking about this as well. CBS, we're talking about this, and they had of all colleges, Columbia, they had their Columbia Climate School professor, Melissa Lotch, on to tout what declaring a climate national emergency would look like.
The White House is considering declaring a national climate emergency to unlock federal powers and stifle oil development. That's according to Bloomberg. Meanwhile, the administration is announcing several projects this Earth Week. The plans include solar energy conservation, clean water, green transportation, and cutting pollution. For some analysis, we want to bring on Melissa Lott. She's a professor at Columbia University's Climate School. She also hosts the Big Switch podcast, which explains how to rebuild our energy systems. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me what a climate emergency is and what that might entail.
So when we talk about the potential for the president to declare a climate emergency, what it's saying is, you know what, there's a national emergency going on, and I need extra powers to be able to respond to it to protect the U.S. This is a contentious decision. If it's made, this discussion has come up many times, but if it is made, then the president would have additional powers in the short term, almost immediately. Oh,
just short-term additional powers, right? Listen, you give the government power, it is very, very hard to get it back. But climate emergencies, they sound terrifying, don't they?
I'm scared.
Calm down. It hasn't been declared yet, but it may. So what does more power for Joe Biden look like, and how? And who's really going to be, wielding this power, because it's not Joe Biden.
And what might those powers look like, and who would be the first to be nervous about new powers the president might have? In other words, would it be fossil fuel companies? How might that work out?
Yeah, so if the president does this, he would have access to a lot of different powers. I know what's being talked about is the ability to control how we're able to sell fossil fuels. Are we able to export it? Are we able to send it to different parts of the world? Now, obviously, the countries, the organizations that depend on those exports, they would be concerned about it, as would companies. But that's not all that the president can do. The president can do a lot to bolster up the manufacturing, the production of clean energy technologies. And combined with some other powers that he has, or that he could take advantage of, he could move the needle when it comes to climate change and emissions.
He's not going to move the needle. Do you think he's going to move the needle?
Not in my household, not in my neighborhood.
Yeah, I knew that's gonna come in good.
I'm excited for that.
That's a good one, right? I'm sure the last time he probably had to move a needle was at his house, given the nature of his son's addiction issues. All right, real quick, Gracie in Nashville has a comment on Michael Douglas. What's up, Gracie?
Hey, not much. You doing okay?
Yeah, how are you?
I'm good. Michael Douglas, she was asking, how do you not know who he is?
Yeah.
That's the same dude who accused his wife, Catherine Zeta-Jones, of giving him throat cancer from oral sex.
Oh. Thanks. Appreciate you, Gracie. I'm glad we got that call in. It's 11:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
A suspect crashes but gets away anyway, prompts lockdowns in Laverne, and it looks like a deal has been reached between the State House and State Senate for what would be about a $500 million tax cut for businesses. These stories and more at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
That's exciting. I always like less taxes. Let's do it.
I'm all for less taxes.
Me and you both. Ken's News coming up at 11:30. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. We've gotten a lot of reaction to the Michael Douglas house party for Joe Biden.
Right? A lot of people want to talk about Michael Douglas.
I was surprised by that.
Didn't expect it.
I didn't know people really value grassroots engagement at that level. James in Shelbyville has a comment about Michael Douglas. What's up, James?
Yeah, well, I was thinking that Michael Douglas played the part of the president with Will Smith in Independence Day, the first movie.
Was that Michael Douglas? I don't think that was that Michael Douglas in Independence Day? I'm not sure that was him.
He was in The American President. I don't think he was in Independence Day.
Well, I don't know. I think he was the president, and he played the part of the president in Independence Day. And in the second one, he played the part of the retired president, an old man that mind was screwed up by the aliens.
So he kind of has like a kinship with Joe Biden.
Yeah, I guess. Maybe so.
I appreciate the call, James. Thanks.
Maybe that's why he's throwing that party for him over there.
Maybe. Hey, appreciate your call, James. Thanks so much. Yeah, I don't know. It's $3,300 to go to the Michael Douglas Joe Biden house party. $30,000 to take a photo with Joe Biden. And Michael Douglas, his wife, Catherine Zeta-Jones, and fashion designer Eileen Fisher, they're paying $100,000 for the privilege to host the party. Higgins, what's going on, man? You're on Super Talk.
What's up? How y'all doing?
Good. How are you, sir?
Man, I'm hanging in there like a hair in a biscuit. I just wanted to call and make a bit of a comment on the Michael Douglas thing because, first of all, Michael Douglas was not in Independence Day. And second of all, I don't think he's – honestly, the last time I saw Michael Douglas, he looked halfway to the grave, so he may not even know that Biden's really coming tonight. He may think he's just having a little get-together with the neighborhood. I don't know.
I think if we were betting on who knew where they're going to be tonight, my money would be on Michael Douglas as opposed to the president.
Absolutely. But, again, with them, I didn't know they could add slurs to a transcript. That's pretty cool. Yep. But I just wanted to comment that if he gets to this new Green Deal and he tries to pass that, I really do think that you're going to see not just a landslide in the voting aspect, but I really do feel like there might be a resurrection of the people raising up. You know what I'm saying? Because they're not going to stand for this joker any longer than November.
I hear you, Higgins. In November, man, it's so far away and so close at the same time. It's like two things at once. I feel like Travis Kelce. It's 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
$11:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes. And the search is on for a suspect who prompted the lockdown of Laverne's City Hall and Public Library after he ran away after crashing his car while being chased by police. Tennessee businesses may be in line for a $1.5 billion tax cut after all. The Tennessee and reporting House and Senate leaders have come to an agreement on a franchise tax bill that was held up over transparency. For the deal to happen, the Senate agrees to names of businesses and ranges of refund amounts being made public, but only for a 30-day window. Former President Trump's lawyers making the case in the U.S. Supreme Court that he cannot be prosecuted for alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election because his questioning the results was to ensure election integrity and absolute immunities needed for a president to effectively function in office. And Justice Brett Kavanaugh appeared skeptical of the government's conspiracy and fraud charges against Trump.
The problem is the vague obstruction and 371 conspiracy to defraud the United States can be used against a lot of presidential activities historically with a creative prosecutor who wants to go after a president.
Now, ruling in Trump's favor could threaten special counsel Jack Smith's January 6th case and others. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
$11:36 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The members' nutrition text line has just evolved into people telling us who the president was on Independence Day.
Been a Hollywood history last 20 minutes for us.
It has. It has.
Not where we were trying to go.
No, but that's okay. That's okay. We like media.
Yeah, we had a caller that was saying Michael Douglas was in Independence Day. And you and I were both like,
It's Bill Pullman.
Yeah. As we've been notified by many Members Nutrition Super Texters now.
Yep. Everybody told us. He was also in Spaceballs.
Paul Douglas was?
No.
Bill. Oh, okay, cool. Bill Pullman. Nice. This is so confusing.
Let's just start making stuff up. Michael Douglas, he was
Yeah, exactly.
he was the skipper in Gilligan's Island.
Dude, he was really good in Space Jam.
I thought he was the best Batman we've ever had.
It's like, wait, what?
What?
That's so funny.
Yep. Netflix just cast Michael Douglas to play Obama in the next biopic. They do that stuff all the time.
We got a text from Joe on the Members Nutrition Super Text line. You can see Michael Douglas's butt in Fatal Attraction if you wish.
I don't.
I'm good.
I don't wish.
Good.
Don't wish.
Think so.
People like the Fatal Attraction movie. But yeah, we were talking about media. The media is so crazy, man. Do you know that there are weekly strategy calls for anti-Trump lawyers and media pundits? They hold these weekly to discuss strategy on Trump's legal cases. This is just breaking yesterday. Breitbart had the story. A group of anti-Trump lawyers and media analysts secretly convene weekly via Zoom to discuss and strategize over former President Trump's legal cases, according to a report. Anush Kandori, I'm probably butchering that, I apologize, a former federal prosecutor and senior writer for Politico magazine, revealed Tuesday that every Friday since 2022, former Obama official, Trump impeachment legal team member, and CNN legal analyst Norman Eisen has hosted a Zoom call for Trump-hating lawyers and pundits to hash it out and discuss developments in the cases and stress test legal arguments against Trump. That's how they frame it. I frame it as, let's get our ducks in a row so we're all saying the same things. The meetings are off the record, and according to the Politico writer, are a chance for the group's members, many are affiliated with MSNBC or CNN, to grapple with novel legal issues before discussing them on air. Members include lead Russia collusion hoax prosecutor and MSNBC legal analyst Andrew Weissman, Trump-hating Bill Kristol, Harvard scholar Lawrence Tribe, former Nixon lawyer and CNN contributor John Dean, the Lincoln Project's George Conway, and disgraced legal analyst Jeffrey Toobin. You remember Jeffrey Toobin?
Name rings a bell.
I'm surprised anybody lets Jeffrey Toobin in the Zoom calls because he's the guy that was the legal analyst on CNN and exposed himself during a Zoom call.
Oh, yeah.
Remember he wasn't wearing,
yes.
forgot the pants that day.
Oh.
I don't know if he forgot the pants or he just was.
Yeah.
We don't know his motives.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know his motives.
I forgot about that.
Why would you invite that guy on a Zoom call? Like, hey, Tubes, leave your camera off, bro.
Audio only, man.
Audio only. And then the Lincoln Project's George Conway, that one doesn't shock me. George Conway recently said that he was donating $929,000 to Biden because Trump is a threat to democracy. That's his words. So there's more too. There's so many people on this call. CNN senior legal analyst Ellie Honig, and NBC, MSNBC legal analyst and podcaster Barb McQuaid and Joyce White Vance, MSNBC contributor Jennifer Rubin, former senior Justice Department official and MSNBC podcaster Mary McCord, CNN commentator Karen Agnifilo, CNN commentator Elliot Williams. They get on this call weekly to discuss the talking points in Trump's legal cases. Other regulars include more strident legal voices on lefty social media, such as NYU professor Ryan Goodman, former federal prosecutor Renato Mariotti, former FBI special agent and ABC News contributor Asha Rangappa, I don't know some of these names, but I'm just reading them the best I can. So there are usually about a dozen people on these calls. And everybody's united by how much they hate Trump, orange man bad, according to the report. There are sometimes special guests, such as House January 6th committee staffers. E. Jean Carroll's attorney has been on the call. The former judge who led a public campaign to disqualify Trump from ballots, J. Michael Ludig, he's been on the calls. They have all these people on, and they're getting their talking points in order. The writer at Politico notes how the group members have leveraged Trump's legal issues to advance their own careers. There's a whole swath of media who have made their name on bashing Trump. He writes, Trump's unprecedented legal situation has generated intense public interest in a robust media ecosystem of its own. Suddenly, lawyers and legal pundits who might once have been relegated to the unglamorous client or academic work are in very high demand in the media, even more so today than during Mueller's Trump-Russia investigation. These guys are hosting podcasts, writing books, popular Substacks, and crafting well-followed social media feeds that often appear to serve, as a practical matter, as self-promotional tools for their other media projects and as a mechanism to attract attention of television bookers with the latest hot take on Trump's court cases. For these people in these calls, it's a unique opportunity to weigh in with the public at a critical juncture in American politics and obtain a level of public recognition and stature that few lawyers can ever attain. The people on this call, and on some level the call itself, are essentially cogs in that system, helping to generate and shape content for Trump-hungry consumers. I would point out it would be anti-Trump hungry consumers, the ones that just hate Trump, suffer from severe TDS. And it even writes that some group members were anxious that he was even going to release this story and were concerned it would give credence to Trump's accusation of a legal conspiracy against him. Well, yeah. You're on a Zoom call weekly discussing details of Donald Trump's court cases and how you're going to present them on TV. You're strategizing how to make him look bad as possible, and coordinating your efforts so that way everybody is marching in lockstep. They say that this article runs the risk of creating the impression that there is an agreement or cooperation or conspiracy across mainstream media entities, one person told him. And that could feed into some false and damaging perceptions, particularly on the right. Well, I would ask him, you explain it to me. Explain to me the need for this call if it's not getting your talking points in order and finding out how you can damage Trump. Seriously. They say it feels almost like a seminar in law school, our participant in the group claimed, adding that most calls comprise deliberation, debate, and discussion, albeit with a distinct anti-Trump tilt to it. The report revealed, however, that some members are skeptical about the merits of the Manhattan District Attorney case against Trump, about whether it should have been brought in the first place, and that has been something of a running theme across some of the calls. Even on the calls, they know that these cases are garbage, yet they'll get their talking points in order, and they'll go on TV and say, we got him this time. Trump allies and conservative commentators did not buy group member denials of coordination. Of course they didn't. Former Trump White House press secretary Sean Spicer weighed in on Twitter. He said, if you thought there was an organized effort against Trump, you were right. And the cover just got blown off inside the off-the-record calls held by anti-Trump legal pundits. Washington Examiner columnist Brian York posted, anyone surprised that there's a group like this? Are you surprised that there's a group like this? Of course not. Of course not. But the media will do anything they can to go after Donald Trump, hurt him, discredit him, and try and help Biden win the election. These court cases are, without a doubt, election interference. The president of the United States can't even sit at the Supreme Court today and deal with the case that is in front of him on immunity. He can't. He's in court in New York. Luckily, he's making the most of his visits to New York. Luckily. And he's generating crowds everywhere he goes, and he's turning the negative into a positive, and the momentum is there.
What's it like seeing so many Republicans in Manhattan, so many Trump supporters in Manhattan? Does that surprise you?
No, not at all. It's turning now. Trump's turn again.
What's your message to Joe Biden?
You.
That's a lot of people's message to Joe Biden. That's how people feel. But the media is absolutely out to get Donald Trump. And when you hear that legal analysts, upwards of a dozen on weekly calls, trying to figure out how they can spin, what talking points to have, what narrative they're shaping, they're doing everything they can to stop this man. And I'm happy to say they've been doing this since 2022. It's not working. It's not working. Every court case Trump gets, poll numbers go up. Every legal challenge that comes before him, he polls higher. They're not going to stop, though. They're not going to stop at all. In fact, it was moments after polling was revealed that Trump was up in Arizona that we found out that Republicans in Arizona are now indicted. Yeah, it's just like Michigan. It's just like Michigan. Arizona has indicted 11 Republican alternate electors and 7 Trump attorneys and aides over the 2020 election.
I can't calm down. I'm going to be indicted. Indicted!
Everybody's indicted. They named Trump a unindicted co-conspirator. Is that a nice way to say we don't have evidence to charge him? Those indicted include former Trump White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, Rudy Giuliani, Jenna Ellis, John Eastman, Christina Bobb, top campaign advisors, Boris Epstein, and former campaign aide Mike Roman. And these are the same people that were indicted in Fulton County. Trump, again, he's an unindicted co-conspirator. Total of 18 people were indicted in the case, and the indictment comes, they say, after the events that took place in December 2020, when these individuals signed a certificate claiming they were duly elected and qualified electors. How dare they? We used to just call them alternate electors and not make a big deal out of it, but now you do that for Trump. That's an indictment. I wish I could be a leftist AG for a day and do my best Oprah impression and be like, you're getting indicted, you're getting indicted, you're getting indicted. Look under your seat. It's an indictment. 11:48 on Super Talk, 99.7 WTN. 11:55 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My day is coming to a close, passing the baton to Matt Murphy. What's up, Murph?
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great. What a gorgeous day.
Is it nice out?
I hope everybody gets to spend a little time outside. It's nice.
It's a little chilly when I came in.
But it's getting up there. 75 degrees there about today.
I'm with it.
80 by the weekend. Maybe a little rain tomorrow. I don't know why I'm doing the weather forecast.
What is this? Stefano DiPietro?
Yeah.
I kept interrupting Stefano yesterday.
I know. It was his birthday yesterday, too. You interrupted the birthday boy.
No, he was doing like a pause. It's not my fault. He was doing like a pause. He was like, it was something, and he would pause, and I'd try to get in there. You know how it is. Hey, Chris.
Pause.
Damn it! For the last time, anything you put on that prompter, Burgundy will read.
It is what's fascinating to me, the amount of liberals that you can find on social media, these rando trolls that defend it.
Oh, my gosh. Did you see that the White House, they put out a transcript, and instead of where he says pause, they have parentheses inaudible.
Oh, do they now?
Isn't that nice?
Uh-huh. Isn't that sweet? That's swell.
Yep.
More Biden. Just more Biden. The more Biden, the better. More Biden, the better.
I am still amazed that we were able to sweep the cannibal story under the rug.
Mm-hmm.
His uncle was eaten by cannibals. Nobody demands answers?
Like what kind? Like what he tasted like? What?
I need answers about everything.
I have it on. I looked this up one time.
Cannibals?
Well, people that. So I don't want to get too macabre on the Chris Hand Show. I'll save that for my show. But apparently human beings taste more like pork.
Really?
Yeah, that's true. According to those who know. Sources say, anecdotally.
Anecdotally. I don't know how they let that get away.
Look, before I let this get away from me, everybody on the station outside of Brian Wilson tried moon pies, and I think we were mostly of the same conclusion that, and I've said it this way, in 1917, you throw one of these down, and I bet it's the best thing that people have ever put in their mouths in ever.
Game changer.
Game changer. In 107 years, the confectionery delights available to us have advanced quite considerably. Moon pie, still the same. To their credit. But I think our tastes have changed a little bit.
Yeah. Did your moon pie tasting go good yesterday?
I think it went well.
Yeah?
I was a little sick afterwards.
Yeah, it was sugar rush.
It was just, so much sugar.
I gotta say, man, I was disappointed.
I mean, they're a little more. I think you're expecting the filling to be more of a cream.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's a marshmallow.
Very marshmallow.
And so that makes it drier than you are anticipating it should be.
I only liked the original flavor, Chris, and I don't even like chocolate.
What did you think of the blueberry?
He liked the OG.
The OG.
Yeah.
Blueberry was terrible. Blueberry was our least favorite, correct?
Blueberry was not very good.
Yeah.
Where did banana rank on your scale?
That was probably second.
Banana was number 2 for me.
Yeah.
Really?
I like the fake banana taste, though.
Do you know what I remember as a kid, which I was always a big fan of? Banana milk. You guys ever have that?
Yes.
I remember banana milk.
Nesquik used to make banana milk.
I couldn't get off the strawberry. I never got off the strawberry to get the banana.
Strawberry's so good, too. Banana's amazing, yeah.
Huge fan of banana milk, especially when it's raw and unpasteurized.
Hey, by the way, before I go, all of you Chris Hand folks that leave when I come on the radio, hey, you can thank me later for the Phil Williams story that premiered last night because I'm responsible for it. And I'll tell you why coming up in a moment.
All right, don't leave. Murphy's going to tell you what he did and why. I might stick around for this. I'll listen in the car or anywhere with the iHeartRadio app or the TuneIn app. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.